Yeah, good morning. I thought I would do a quick live before I get ready to go into the office for work. I've been in meetings since 5:30, so taking the break now while I can. Anyway, you may have noticed that over the last week I've been sharing a few little tidbits and insights from the guest speaker interview I did with exercise physiologist Gail Walker. And, she's a big promoter of the importance of preserving lean muscle tissue or building lean muscle tissue or mitigating the loss of lean muscle tissue, right? And so today I thought I would provide some further thoughts to tie in some key concepts around the importance of building or mitigating lean muscle mass. And particularly in the context of if you're looking to lose a little bit of weight or in particular fat loss. There is a difference between weight loss and fat loss, obviously. So I guess there's four key insights that I want to share with you. And that one is that if you to just simply reduce your calories or to diet without exercising, you not only increase the chances of losing. Actually, it's pretty much guaranteed. You'll lose more muscle than you probably do fat during that process. But it actually has some impact on your ability to recover that muscle mass after you finish that diet as well. So most of you have likely heard that losing muscle can lower your metabolic rate. But what you might not know is that it can actually affect your overall metabolic health. And what's really interesting is that after a diet, in particular, don't exercise, the muscle loss might actually make you way more hungrier, causing you to regain even more fat than you lost in the first place. So you end up having a pendulum swing and kind of going worse than what you started off with, right? And this is why people tend to start that yo-yo dieting process, because like, well, I had results and now I'm worse, so I'll go back to doing what I did. And then that yo-yo effect actually in the long term doesn't actually do anything and it makes you miserable. Anyway, that aside, so that finding as well is interesting. It's been long documented, and one of the forefathers of that experiment was basically the Minnesota starvation experiment, which is like a study done from like the 1940s. But anyway, they've got a lot of data. It's like a 1,400 page report, so do not recommend reading it unless you're really into that stuff. But anyway, one of the suggestions out of that, or findings out of that study, or suggestions, I guess, is that when you lose fat-free mass, your brain will drive you to overeat to recover that fat-free mass. It's kind of like a survival mechanism, right? So, and so overeating, so what happens as well, if you tend to come off a really restricted diet, you'll tend to overeat. That's kind of just how that works. And obviously that'll help you regain size, but it'll increase your body fat way more than muscle. And if you think about it from a biological standpoint, it kind of makes sense, right? So fat provides more energy per gram than muscle. Plus, it's also a lot easier to maintain. Like fat itself it's a storage cell, so it doesn't actually take as much energy on a day-to-day basis to maintain, whereas muscle obviously does, hence why you get an increased metabolic rate, right? So basically your body is kind of hardwired that, if it thinks that it's gone into starvation mode, or in an attempt to protect you from famine, it may prioritize fat recovery over that of muscle, because that's what's going to get you through a period of famine. So essentially that's why you'll end up fatter than when you first started, because it's also harder to build muscle than it is to store fat. Like, it's a lot easier. Our bodies are hardwired to be the really efficient machines of storing fat, which is unfortunate, but probably useful, if we have periods of famine. So the second point is that resistance training is most effective at preventing muscle loss. Probably not a huge revelation to any of you here. So I guess the point is as well is that, any exercise may be helpful for results, but lifting weights really does give you bang for buck. So strength training is pretty much the most powerful stimulus for muscle growth. So if you want to preserve or build muscle, then unfortunately you will be lifting things that are heavy of nature, just the way things go. But it can be fun, I promise you. And if not, take a page from Gail Walker's book, which is I hate the gym, but I do it anyway because I see the importance of it. And she's still doing it at a much mature age than most of my audience. Let's just put it that way. So the other thing is as well is obviously, you know, we're all different, right? So some of us are going to be more at risk than others in losing muscle. You know, if you're already a lean person who's already doing like high volume workouts, then if you undergo like a calorie cut, then you need to maintain or increase your efforts at the gym, right? Because you need to make sure that you're mitigating any muscle loss as much as possible. Plus, generally, if you're doing that, it's probably for physique piece anyway, so you're wanting to shape and sculpt your body and show off your muscularity. I am really struggling with speaking today, so yeah, but obviously then, you know, if you're relatively inactive and, you know, maybe you've got a little bit of love handles and so on, when you start reducing your energy intake, then you're really in a great space, right? Because you can pretty much undertake a low to moderate volume of resistance training, and that would be probably enough strong stimulus to protect your fat-free mass, and also probably just more appropriate for where you're at. Like if you're trying to implement better daily habits, then, you know, trying to do everything at once is probably not going to work in your favour. Or we do the all or nothing approach and then end up 3 weeks, you know, exhausted and back where we started, right? So this is about implementing sustainable change over time. And it also proves as well that, you know, depending on your circumstances, you don't need to train like a bodybuilder to get results. Also, you know, I guess the rate of calorie restriction obviously matters heaps as well. Like, you're more likely to lose muscle when eating very low calories and trying to lose more than, say, 1%, you know, more than half or a full percent of body weight per week. And, you know, so probably more than one kilo a week, right? And, you know, and then there's obviously some genetic freaks, right, there are just some people who just gain muscle easier than others, and some who also lose it easier than others, right? So that's why individual results always vary. And the fourth key takeaway as well is that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to the amount of protein that they're getting. So eating enough protein is really, really good idea, and it's pretty much the second biggest stimulator of muscle growth. And so alongside with, you know, your regular training, consuming enough protein to maximise your muscle growth will really help cover all the bases, right? And I guess the next question invariably leads to, well, how much protein? And usually, you know, it's anywhere between 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of your own body weight, and that really obviously depends on your unique situation. I guess, you know, interestingly enough, most of the research points that most people won't see benefits beyond 1.6 grams of proteins per body weight, per kilo of body weight. However, some research suggests that, you know, there's quite a lot of outliers out there that may require up to 2.2 grams per kilo of body weight to maximise results. And I guess that comes down to, you know, how much calories you absorb, you know, what you're expending in terms of in terms of exercise and so on. So there's quite a lot of things that can play into that. But anyway, those are the 4 key insights. So bottom line is, if you are looking to change your body composition, looking to reduce your calorie intake or go on a diet, then really pay attention to exercise, but not just exercise specifically, how you're going to make bang for buck out of that, and that's really going to come from resistance training. So there you have it. There are today's insights. Hope you got something out of that. And don't forget to keep a lookout for the amazing podcast dropping next week with Gail Walker. All right. Catch you later.